What a div, y'all. Let's get right into it. Got a little quick fire video for you guys here as I want to get back to grinding, quite frankly. But I wanted to give you guys a quick update on how the character's going, as almost the entirety of my day one goal has been hit after roughly 14 hours of playtime, or give or take. I don't remember the exact number anymore, right? First off, this leveling was a little questionable. Just gonna be honest with you. It's mostly my fault though. It's my fault. I could have just played like PS Locust Mines and Respect after full farming and Heist for a bit. I could have also just played a Rolling Magma into Firestorm the normal way, added in some Armageddon Brand for some better clear, but no. I had to do Storm Brand and Firestorm because I was just curious. I felt like Armor Brand was just a waste of the cast speed that the Ascendancy offered, and I wanted to do some testing. Why not? And honestly, it was fine. It was still like a 5:30 time, but it was definitely like 45 minutes slower than it really should have been because of the setup, and also because I didn't do enough planning ahead of time. But you know, here there. Just like play Rolling Magma and Armageddon Brand with Firestorm, and you'll be fine. The only other thing regarding the leveling is to make sure you guys actually like know the Ascendancy order. I realized I didn't actually talk about that in my previous video. It goes to the deep first for the speed, then Stormy Seas, which mostly is just for the safety. If you're, especially for me, I was playing Stormbrand, so it actually like let me free stuff and like Herald of Ice. It was pretty nice. And then Glacial Wave third, which is just a damage and DR node, which then afterwards we're going to do Uberlab soon and take Brine Bound, just because I want to actually stick my freezes for Hermsara on like beefier targets. After I get even more damage though, it will likely turn into Changing Seasons and we'll start setting up self-chain. Now, last thing about leveling, by the way, before we transition into other stuff that has occurred within the plan, do not kill Katava in Act 10. That is unnecessary and you are just res penalizing yourself for no reason, right? Because once you've done your passive point circuit before Act 10 Katava, you know that thing you always do where you're like, okay, do I have all my points? Let me go kill Katava now, right? After you've done that and you find out you have 21 points like I did, you're like, all right, so what's a Katava? Right into Merc Lab is where I go, right? We went straight to Merc Lab, started farming, especially the layout. The layout is insane at the time of recording, right? It will reset probably a couple hours after this video is posted. But it is an insane layout if you get to do it. 6 rooms and 2 dark shrines on those 6 rooms. It's So I went in there for a little while. Got me a couple good low, like 2 to 4 seed trades that might have actually come up in value just because of, you know, the way that market tends to mature over the first 48 hours. But I also hit my own Penance Brand of Dissipation insanely quickly, which we were thinking about it, like, do I sell it? Do I keep it? We ended up keeping it because I figured it was going to go up, and I was very right because people were looking at it and seeing it was like 80, 90 chaos later on in the night, and it was only 15 chaos when I had dropped my own. So huge money save there, right? And after getting those gems and some other upgrades I'll talk about down the line, I went to Heist because Heist is just a little bit better for what we need to be doing. Specifically, the Chaos Recipe. Heist is the best way to finish the Chaos Recipe for solo players, because as long as we're constantly checking Wakano from like level 60 onwards each time we level up, we will just have a good amount of base contracts to start off with, and that'll allow us to do the Chaos Recipe quickly with its large amount of rare gear, especially amulets, well, jewelry in general. And we'll use all of that to, you know, get the capital we need to buy our high priority items before they skyrocket in price. It's worth noting that this is not just a heist thing. It's just about doing the Chaos Recipe early while the price of items is so cheap that the Chaos Recipe actually gets you there. And Heist just happens to be like one of the best ways to do it, especially for solo players. You also get a good amount of like raw currency, including like, you know, chromes and fusings and whatnot to actually like put your gear together a little bit, which is really nice. And, you know, after a little bit of farming and some additional money making and whatnot in there, we were able to, you know, pass 500,000 DPS, which meant it was time for Sanctum. And oh baby, was it time for Sanctum. The Forbidden Sanctum, our home here on the channel, the glorious base of operations for the SRU. Heard there's some infiltrators from the ASA lurking around in our home. I don't very much appreciate that, but you know, it is what it is. We're welcoming here, right? About unity around these parts. And it felt incredible going back into Sanctum and just immediately being showered with currency. The damage felt incredible. It's got some usual ramp usefulness that you have to get used to, because last time I played my Penance brand character, it was with Swift brand on, and right now we're playing without it. So getting used to that, but otherwise felt great. And as it stands now, we're at like 2 million DPS, and that's honestly low, because I'm not putting my shock and chill effects in there, which are very impactful on the damage we're dealing, but is what it is, right? Now, this is, of course, after several upgrades, which we'll talk about in a moment, but just to let you know as well, this footage you're seeing here and the upgrades and a lot of what was been done for the character has been done on stream, and that link is in the description if you just want to come, hang out, ask some questions, see the process in action, whatever it may be. Just, blast it until we're rich, and then who knows what we're going to do afterwards. Now, back to those upgrades that I did make. You'll see the full character when we go in game, so you can actually see where we're currently at. But I need to let y'all know some decisions I made kind of impromptu, because item prices were a little ridiculous at the start of the league, as they always are for certain high priority builds, and this was one of those builds that everybody wanted to put their hands on. So couple items that you might need some substitutes for. Bitter Dream at the time of recording is still 45 chaos. Granted, it was a divine, which is like 80, 90, 100 chaos when I got mine, but it is 45 chaos at the time of recording, so much more attainable. Singularity even is down to 8 to 10 chaos. So, if you want one of those, go for it. I am currently wearing Bitter Dream plus Singularity. I was wearing double Singularity at first, and that was the audible that I made, which is okay, buy 2 Singularities. Those are easy enough to farm to. Use those to farm up to a Bitter Dream, right? That was the method. Eye of Innocence, the neck for enabling the Self-Ignite setup, was 3 div at first. It is now down to 35 chaos, much more affordable, very reasonable to farm, and Moku's Embrace is not expensive at all, so don't even worry about it. But if you do find that Eye of Innocence is still out of your reach for a little bit too long, +1 amulet will do you just fine for quite a while. Make sure you just anoint it with Annihilation or something cheap. Easy enough, right? There's Heat Shiver, which I still don't actually have. That was unfortunately the one part of my day one plan that I could not get my hands on, although I actually do have the money for it now. I'm just kind of weighing my options on other things that I could be buying before I commit to buying Heat Shiver. But without Heat Shiver, just a rare, a Thrill Steal, or a Ever's Unification, all 3 are fine, and that's Heat Shiver is going to gap all of them, which also, if you did not see the confirmation, by the way, Fair Grace Tricorn does not work with this Ascendancy though, so unfortunately can't use that as our budget option, right? Now, also, the glove slot Voidbringer, it's worth noting we made it audible on the glove, but not because Voidbringer was expensive, but because Bitter Dream was expensive. Bitter Dream carries your links, and so you can just use Voidbringer for the immense amount of crit that it provides. But until I could get a Bitter Dream, I was wearing Khaleesi's Grace, because there was a really cheap glove that gave me a pseudo 5 link, and that was very valuable to me, right? So do that what you will. Speaking of pseudo links, by the way, if you don't want to do that approach, there's also just getting a tabula or something else, or a terrible corrupted 6 link to fill in your chest slot while Vol's Protector is a little bit out of your reach. I believe at the time of recording it is still around a divine in value, so do with that what you will. And my last little adjustment is Mute Wind Whisper Steps, because Stormcharger is perfectly fine, and I'm still wearing them at this moment, because Mute Wind Whisper Steps are just overpriced IMO. I'm just not willing to pay that amount, is what it is. It just got put in too many guides, not just mine, right? I'm not big enough to do that, but it's been put in a lot of guides and a lot of Google Docs and a lot of conversations, so it's a little overpriced at the moment. I'm just gonna keep wearing my Stormchargers. They do just fine. Now, there are other small gearing things, but I'm just trusting your judgment on the rest of that. That's on you to know what you actually need to be upgrading and when you need to be upgrading them, right? Let's get in game so I can actually show you the character and talk a little bit about that. Alrighty, quick round tour of the character. Level 81. I got a decent bit of these levels in Heist, but then we just went to Sanctum, we got the rest of it, right? 60, I want to say 61 to 70s ish was done in Heist, and then I've just been in Sanctum ever since, getting her done. right? You'll notice the resistances are still not capped. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. We will not be losing sleep over resistances here. Made a couple other, like I mentioned, gear changes. We're in Bitter Dream with Singularity. Self-Ignite setup is acquired. I do have my Vol's Protector. This was an annoyingly expensive purchase, and I'm still not even fully like ready to utilize it. I just have it because I know that it's like it was on the docket. Woodbringer Stormchargers. I need to get a Heat Shiver or a real hat here, but for now, this is covering some fire res. Much needed fire res is what it is. I will probably just buy a Heat Shiver to cover this up. I need to get a better belt, mostly because I actually need the dex from it, so I can actually put haste instead of hatred back in or something. Because my haste is currently sitting on the sidelines, not even being leveled right now because I literally cannot put it in, unfortunately. Flask wise, my flasks are things that I have not touched in a while, so please touch your flask. I just haven't. Make sure you have a source of CV immunity. You need a source of ignite removal in case you almost get a burn to die from like an actual hit. And then you'll want to, have something light. Like for me personally, I'm probably going to get like an onslaught or like a diamond or something, but who knows? Or onslaught flask. Yeah, the silver flask. Like that's probably what I'm going to do there. Tree. Pretty normal outside of the sheer amount of dex nodes I have to click at the moment to try to fit, because I was fitting haste. It was just a lot of dex needed. Just got to get some of that on gear, get like Heat Shiver again. There's gearing upgrades are on the way. This is an iterative process. Otherwise though, the tree is crit, which by the way, you level as non-crit and you just go grab EO, but it's pretty quick to be able to switch over to crit once you actually have Peabody. You're at like level 77, like 75 or so. It's a very easy switch over to crit at that point. And even easier once you get Vol's Protector. That's gear stuff. In terms of gems, you'll notice, it's pretty much what you see in the POB, right? Or like in the planning POB, even not just the one that we'll have in the description, but like Zealotry, Assassin's Mark. I'm currently running Hatred, no haste yet because I need to get my Spectres. That's like the one thing that's missing still. I don't have Spectres in, but I even have the Guardian's Blessing Stone Golem, which by the way, a very comfortable setup. You just spawn this and then I press a button and my blessing is active, which you can see my poor golem is degenning, which if he dies, you just have to resummon him and then reactivate the aura. You can deactivate the aura to keep him from dying, but like, I don't know why you would do that. You lose your damage. So he just keeps dying. You can resummon to refresh the health of the minion and not have to reactivate the aura. Little things to think about, right? There's also, again, Wrath, Frostflake, and like stuff is in various different places just because of like, well, where my sockets landed. You know the deal. One last thing, right before I think I'm kind of good here because I don't think there's a whole lot to actually talk about in here. I just wanted to kind of show you what you'll be seeing in the POB is that I am running an automation in Arcane Cloak inspiration setup. I was put onto this after I recorded my starting guide and or started like plans for it, which this allows us to have Arcane Cloak consume mana even though we're EB, right? We're EB, so we can't consume mana naturally, but Arcane Cloak consuming mana will give us inspiration charge. I need to go to a location that has combat enabled, so we're going to go to the Sanctum when we do this, right? Which you'll see here, I'm gaining inspiration charges from Arcane Cloak being activated. Now it's really slow and will not matter in most zones, right? In most zones it won't matter. But, going into phase 2 of Lycia, this is just bonus damage you're acquiring from actually having a source of inspiration charges, which is really, really nice. You'll see here, like it says, it's more damage and like crit chance per charge. So this is just a really nice damage bump that we get out of our Bitter Dream, actually allowing us to make use of every line on Bitter Dream to its fullest. Well, I guess except for the Frenzy Charge generation from Ice Spike, but we don't need that on bosses anyways. Not yet, right? Okay, that covers pretty much everything for me that I had prepared for like what I thought we needed to talk about in game here, as I feel like everything else is kind of not necessarily self-explanatory, but just what I think was worth actually showcasing immediately. I missed anything, or if you feel like there's a question that you didn't have answered, drop it in the comments, or stop by the Discord or the stream. Those links are in the description if you want to come there, and I'll make sure to get around to it when I'm not blasting. I'm going to be blasting pretty hard, so it might delay time or response times might vary, right? As far as the next steps for this character go, need a little bit of lab so that I can get my gems qualityed up and whatnot. Like you'll notice my My poor Penance brand is only level 18 with no quality. We can definitely get that to at least 19, 20, probably 20, 20 in the lab very, very easily. A couple other qualities that I think are actually pretty good and worth having. Where was it? There's like lightning warp quality is really good, for example. So there's a little bit of extra stuff in there that I'll need to think about. Leveling my Spectre Gem quicker, which I've already leveled a Spectre Gem, but I might, just want to quickly like quality it or something for make them move faster, give them res. And getting the Spectres is going to be, speaking of that, right? It's Spectres next up on the list. Then I have a couple other gear pieces I need to upgrade. Like I said, I don't have Heat Shiver yet. I need to get a belt that actually supports my attribute needs. And those are like mainly the gear pieces here that need to be adjusted before we start looking at charge stacking gear, right? But before charge stacking gear, I'll probably like get a couple jewels and try to get some more XP to like fill out the character a little bit more. Maybe get my Uber Lab and all that stuff. Anywho's, we'll talk more in the next video with, where we actually go from here in terms of pushing our damage up to hopefully 15 million plus by then. At least without the low life toggle, right? Like you'll notice I don't even have a low life toggle on this character quite yet because I don't think it's actually hasn't been necessary. It's an option, but it's not necessary quite yet. So bless. Thank you guys for watching this one, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace.